All right, good morning. Today we're going to talk about independent and dependent. From the very beginning, we're going to talk very simply about what is a variable and stuff like that. Some of this stuff you already know, but the independent and dependent stuff we've talked about slightly in class, but I want to give you more of a formal presentation. Also, before I get started, I want to tell you that I'm going to put on Edmodo another PowerPoint, not a video, just a PowerPoint talking about functions and the vertical line test. For those of you guys last week who weren't quite understanding what a function was, how to determine if something was a function, please view that PowerPoint, and that will help you study for future tests and study for just basically mastering that particular concept. Guys, please understand the greatest benefit of these videos and these PowerPoints being on Edmodo is the fact that you can constantly go back and study. You know, a lot of people have a hard time studying for math because they don't know how to study for math. They don't know what to study for math. But you can use these videos to keep going back and go over this stuff over and over again. These are great resources so that you can get your grade as high as possible. All right, so independent, dependent. What is a variable? Well, most of you already know a variable is a single letter of the alphabet that represents some unknown value. Okay. Once I find out that the unknown value once I find out that unknown value, I replace it with the actual number. For example, if I don't know the number of books on a bookshelf, I might call it B. Okay. Now when I find out that there's 5 books on the bookshelf, I will then turn it into B equals 5. If I don't know my shoe size, and this right here, this was done by somebody else, but this is not how you properly pluralize my name, so just ignore that. But Coach Melms' shoe size, I might use S for the variable, but once I find out what it is, I might say S equals 12. And amount of money school spends on paper and so forth. So a variable is basically a letter that replaces something that we don't know, and in most cases in Algebra 1, something that we're going to look for. Alright, so when you have the statement, your cell phone bill depends on the minutes used, we want to rewrite this. How do we write this with a variable? Well, we're going to take cell phone bill out because we don't know what the bill is, and we're going to place it with B. We also don't know how many minutes are being used, so we can replace that with something such as M. So now I'm going to have a new statement that says your B depends on the M. So really all I did there was take this word, cell phone bill, and condense it into one little variable B, and then this word, minutes, and condense it into one little variable M. I didn't change anything yet. I just created variables. So we talked about this a little bit in class last week. Which happens first? Do you have a bill first, or do you use your minutes first? Well, in this case, and for those of you guys who don't know, we use our minutes first. We have to have minutes so that we can calculate a bill. The bill happens second. Since the minutes happens first, the first thing is called the independent variable. So since the minutes happen first, the minutes are independent. The second, and those apostrophes mean things that happens first. So I'm sorry, things that happen is called the dependent variable. So the bill is dependent. All right, let's look at another example. Your 6-week grade depends on how much you studied. Okay, we don't know 6 weeks grade, so we're going to replace that with the variable, maybe a G. We don't know how much you studied, so we're going to replace study with the variable, maybe S. So now it's going to say your G depends on your S. What happens first? Well, you should study before you get a grade, right? Because you have the opportunity to take tests and do homework, so studying happens first, grade happens second. Okay, please don't pay any attention to the structure of the sentence. Sometimes what happens first will be up here, and what happens second will be back here. So since studied happened first, that is our independent variable. And grade happened second, so that's our dependent variable. All right, I want you to pause the video for just a second, and I want you to figure this one out on your own. Your tiredness depends on how much sleep you got. Okay. Hopefully you got that one on your own. Hopefully you paused the video and you watched that one on your own and you figured out that we don't know how tired you are, so we're going to change that with the variable T. We don't know how much sleep you got, so we're going to change that with the variable S. Then it returns into your T depends on your S. What happens first? You should have been tired first. You should sleep first. because it's depending on your sleep. And if you got enough sleep, you're not as tired. If you got too much sleep, maybe you're still tired or you're wide awake. Okay, so your tiredness happens second. So since your sleep happens first, sleep is independent, tiredness is dependent. Now I want to point out something else too. You can change these words right here, where it says your T depends on your how much S you got. You can change this and turn it into your T is a function of S you got. Okay, depends on can be a synonym for function of. Okay, please understand that, function of. We're going to talk a lot about functions over the next couple days. Alright, so the winner of the football game depends on who scored the most points. At this time right now, we don't know who the winner of the football game is. So that might be W. We don't know who scored the most points. So we're going to turn that into P for points. So then it's going to reread the W depends on who P, right? The W depends on who scored more P. Okay, who scored more points. Alright, so which happens first? The points happen first, then you have a winner, correct? So points happens first, and you have a winner. Take 30 seconds. You tell me what is independent, what is dependent. Alright, hopefully you got that right. Independent is absolutely the points, and the dependent is the winner. Again, how would I rewrite this using the words function of? W is a function of P. Okay? W is a function of P. Okay, another one. Opportunities for high-paying jobs depend on how much education you have. Again, I encourage you to pause these videos after each one and see if you can do this on your own. Okay, we don't know what high-paying job is, so we'll make that a variable J. We don't know the education you have or the person has, so we make that an E. So this should say opportunities for J depend on how much E you have. Or J is a function of E. J is a function of E. What happens first? In this case, education happens first again, and jobs happen second. You get an education, that's why you're going to high school and college, and then you go out and you use your education, your high school or college education, and you get a job. So which one is independent? Which one is dependent? Well, the thing that happens first is education, so that's our independent variable. The second one that happens is our dependent variable. Please don't forget that J depends on how much E. Can also say J is a function of E. I'm going to ask you about that on Monday. And that pretty much covers it for independent and dependent. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I will see you guys on Monday. Again, don't forget to review the other PowerPoint of function. Again, most of you guys know that information from last week, but it's a good resource to help you cement that information into your knowledge.